The laughter came from every direction. 800 species had gathered at Harmony Prime for the annual fleet review. They came to show their power. They came to remind the galaxy who mattered. And when humanity's 23 small ships entered the viewing zone, they came to laugh. Ambassador Diana Reyes stood in the diplomatic gallery with her hands folded behind her back. She was 58 years old. She had survived 3 wars, 2 assassination attempts, and a divorce. She could survive laughter. Is that truly all of them? High Lord Goreth asked. The Drathian commander stood 12 feet tall. His scales were the color of dry blood. His teeth were designed for tearing flesh. He looked at the human fleet the way a wolf looks at a rabbit. That is our contribution to the review, Diana said calmly. Goreth made a sound that might have been amusement. Your flagship is smaller than my personal transport. Your entire fleet could fit inside one of our cargo holds. Diana said nothing. On the viewing screens, the Drathian Empire paraded their armada. Battle cruisers the size of mountains. Carriers that held 10,000 fightercraft. A command ship so massive it created its own gravitational field. The gathered ambassadors made sounds of approval and fear. Then came the human fleet. 23 ships. The largest, the UES Pioneer, was barely a kilometer long. The others were smaller still. They moved in perfect formation, but formation could not hide their size. The laughter started with the Drathians. It spread to the collective of Rhine, then to the merchant princes of hollow space. Soon the entire gallery was shaking with it. A Confederation news drone captured everything. Within hours, the footage would reach 10,000 worlds. The title would read, "The prey animals join the hunt." Station Master Oraleth floated beside Diana. The ancient creature was made of light and whispers, one of the oldest beings in known space. I am sorry, Ambassador. They do not understand. No, Diana agreed. They do not. Admiral Ben Howard watched from the bridge of the Pioneer. His jaw was tight. His crew was silent. They had trained for years. They had given everything to be here. And the galaxy treated them like a joke. Should we withdraw, sir? His first officer asked. No, we hold position. We follow orders. The fleet review continued. Species after species displayed their power. The crystalline mines brought ships grown from living diamond. The Void Walkers brought vessels that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Each fleet was more impressive than the last, and each time, someone would glance at the human ships and smile. Diana returned to her quarters after the review ended. She sat in darkness for a long time. Then she opened a secure channel to Earth Command. I am requesting activation of Protocol Shepard. The response took 6 hours. When it came, it was from Fleet Admiral Catherine Stone herself. Ambassador, Protocol Shepard has never been used. It was designed for existential threats only. With respect, Admiral, our credibility is an existential concern. Without respect from the Confederation, our colonies are vulnerable. Our trade agreements will be worthless. We will be pushed to the edges of civilization and forgotten. The Council will not approve this lightly. Then remind them what we built. Remind them why we built it. And remind them that our children's children will still be paying the price of tonight's humiliation if we do nothing. Another 6 hours passed. Diana did not sleep. She watched the news feeds as the footage spread across the galaxy. She watched species she had never heard of mocker people. Finally, the response came. 2 words. Shepard is awake. Diana allowed herself a small smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew that everything was about to change. 3 levels below the diplomatic quarters. High Lord Goreth was hosting a celebration. He had invited ambassadors from 100 species to toast the weakness of humanity. They come from a savage world, he announced his guests. They fight and die over scraps. They have no culture, no history, no future. In 1,000 years, no one will remember they existed. The guests raised their glasses. None of them noticed the slight vibration in the station's hull. None of them felt the subtle shift in the local gravity field. None of them knew that something was moving through hyperspace toward them. Something very, very large. Diana stood at her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of any sensor in Confederation space, humanity's true power was waking up. For 12 years, they had pretended to be weak. They had smiled at insults. They had bowed their heads. They had played the role the galaxy expected from them. In Omor, the shepherd was coming. And the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to mock a deathworld. 12 sensor stations across 12 different star systems screamed their warnings at exactly the same moment. Something was moving through hyperspace. Something massive. The readings made no sense. Every technician who saw them assumed their equipment had failed. Intelligence Director Melis was not a creature built for panic. Her species, the Skethri, had compound eyes that could see in 14 spectrums. They had survived 3 galactic wars through careful observation and patient analysis. But when she saw the consolidated sensor data, her wings began to twitch. "This cannot be natural," she said to her analysts. "Asteroid clusters do not move in straight lines. They do not accelerate. Director, the mass readings suggest an object larger than most planets. Then the readings are wrong. All 12 stations report the same figures." Melis clicked her mandibles together. She did not like mysteries. She especially did not like mysteries that moved. The Drathian Empire responded first. High Lord Gorith dispatched the scout vessel Burning Eye to investigate. Captain Yuri Volkov had been captured during a border skirmish years ago. The Drathians kept him as a curiosity, a human specimen to study. When they needed someone expendable to investigate the anomaly, they chose him. Volkov did not complain. He took the small ship and flew toward the coordinates. He was alone. He preferred it that way. His final transmission reached Drathian Command 6 hours later. "I see nothing. Empty space. Wait, there is something. It is very large. It is very dark. I think it sees me too. Tell them. Tell the Confederation. Tell them what we—" The signal ended. Gorith dismissed the report. The human was always unstable. His equipment failed. There is nothing out there. But Melis was not so certain. She activated her network of informants across known space. She pulled every thread she could reach, and what she found disturbed her deeply. Earth had gone quiet. Military channels that usually buzzed with routine traffic had fallen silent. Civilian communications continued normally, but anything related to defense or fleet movements had simply stopped. It was as if the humans had wrapped themselves in a cloak of darkness. "They are hiding something," Melis reported to the Confederation Council. "I do not know what, but I believe it is connected to the anomaly." Counselor Prime Thassan was older than most star systems. His species had been traveling between worlds when the Drathians were still crawling out of swamps. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had learned that the most dangerous moments in history often arrived disguised as curiosities. "Bring me the human ambassador," he said. Diana Reyes entered the council chamber alone. She wore a simple gray suit. Her hair was pulled back. Her face showed nothing. "Ambassador Reyes," Thessin said, "there have been unusual readings from our sensor network. Your people have gone silent. These events appear connected. Explain." Diana looked at the gathered council members, representatives of 800 species, the most powerful beings in the galaxy. They looked back at her with contempt and confusion and the beginnings of something that might have been fear. "The Confederation has treated humanity as children playing at war," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "You have mocked our ships. You have laughed at our technology. You have questioned whether we deserve a place among the stars. This was a mistake. Is that a threat?" Gorith demanded. "It is a correction. You see, you do not understand what Earth truly is." Diana activated a display that hovered above the chamber floor. It showed a planet covered in storms and fire and ice. Volcanoes erupted across one continent. Hurricanes swallowed another. The oceans churned with predators. Earth is classified as a Category 12 death world. Your own scientists made that determination when we first made contact. In the entire database of the Confederation, there are only 31 such worlds. None of the others have ever produced intelligent life. None of them have ever produced spacefaring civilization. Except us. The chamber was silent. You looked at our small ships and saw weakness. You did not stop to wonder why creatures from a Category 12 death world would show you their full strength. You did not consider that we might be hiding something. What have you hidden? Vestan asked. Diana smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Everything. At that exact moment, every sensor in Confederation space began screaming again. The anomaly had arrived. It was dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the Harmony system. Meili stared at her readouts. Her wings went still. The object was 3,400 kilometers wide. It was broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. The message was in every language known to the Confederation. This is the United Earth ship, Colossus. We come in peace. Please do not be alarmed. Through the chamber's viewports, the council members could see it now. A dark sphere blocking out the stars. A world made of metal. A moon that moved. Diana turned to face the assembled powers of the galaxy. You wanted to know what humanity was hiding. Now you see. Nobody spoke for a very long time. The council chamber had windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. They were designed to show the beauty of space, the distant stars, the passing ships. Now, they showed only darkness. The Colossus filled the entire view. It was so large that the mind could not process it. It looked less like a ship and more like a piece of the universe that had decided to move. High Lord Gorath was the first to find his voice. This is impossible. No civilization could build something this size. It would take the resources of 100 worlds. 247. Actually, Diana said. We have been very busy. Admiral Ben Howard stood on the bridge of the Pioneer and watched his ship take its position alongside the Colossus. His 23 vessels, once mocked as toys, now flew in perfect formation around the great sphere. They looked like fireflies dancing around a mountain. All ships confirmed position, his first officer reported. Good. Open a channel to the Colossus. Let them know we are in place. The response came from General Rosa Kimura, commander of the fortress. Her voice was calm and warm. The voice of someone who had spent decades learning how to stay steady in impossible situations. Good to see you, Ben. Welcome home. The Colossus was more than a weapon. It was a home. 2.3 million humans lived within its shell. They had cities and parks and schools. They grew food in vast agricultural domes. They raised children who had never seen Earth except in pictures. Chief Engineer Dmitry Nwosu had spent 40 years aboard the Colossus. He had helped design its earliest systems. He had watched it grow from a skeleton of metal into a living, breathing world. All systems nominal, he reported to General Kimura. Power output holding steady. Defense grid online. We are ready for anything. Let us hope we do not need to be, Kimura replied. This was supposed to be a demonstration, not a battle. Back in the council chamber, chaos had replaced silence. Ambassadors shouted at each other. Some demanded answers. Some demanded action. Some simply stared at the impossible thing outside the windows and tried to remember how to think. Counselor Prime Thessan raised one withered hand. The chamber fell quiet. Ambassador Reyes, you will explain this vessel. You will explain it now. Diana nodded. She had prepared for this moment her entire career. The Colossus is humanity's guarantee of survival. It is a mobile fortress capable of sustaining our species indefinitely. It carries genetic material from every plant and animal on Earth. It carries the complete cultural and scientific archive of human civilization. It carries frozen embryos that could rebuild our population if every other human in the universe died. A lifeboat, Thessan said slowly. Yes, a lifeboat for our entire species. But why? Intelligence Director Meili asked. Her wings had not stopped twitching since the Colossus appeared. Why build something so extreme? Diana turned to face the insectoid creature. Because we come from a death world. We know what extinction looks like. We have faced it 100 times on our own planet. Asteroids, ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues, var. We survived all of it. But we learned something important along the way. She paused. We learned that survival is not guaranteed. We learned that the universe does not care whether we live or die. So we decided to stop relying on luck. We decided to build something that could keep us alive no matter what. Gorith stepped forward. His scales had lost some of their color. The weapons systems. Show me the weapons systems. The weapons are defensive only. They exist to protect the Colossus from threats. Nothing more. You expect me to believe that something this size has only defensive weapons. I expect nothing from you, High Lord. But I will tell you the truth. The Colossus was not built to conquer. It was not built to threaten. It was built to survive. And yes, when you build something to survive anything the universe can throw at it, the defenses tend to be impressive. General Kimura watched the exchange through the Colossus's external sensors. She had seen this scene play out in her mind 1,000 times. The fear, the anger, the desperate scramble to understand. They are not taking it well, Dmitri observed. Did you expect them to? No, but I hope. Diana finished her explanation and waited for the council's response. Vestan was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy. Why did you hide this from us? Why pretend to be weak? Because strength invites conflict, Diana said. We watched the Confederation for 12 years. We saw how the powerful treated the weak. We saw the wars and the politics and the endless competition. We decided that the safest path was to appear harmless until we understood this galaxy well enough to reveal ourselves. And now we have been mocked enough. Now we want something different. We want partnership. We want respect. We want to stand beside you as equals, not beneath you as pets. She looked around the chamber at the gathered powers of the galaxy. The choice is yours. You can treat us as enemies, and we will defend ourselves. Or you can treat us as friends, and we will stand with you against any threat. Either way, you will never laugh at humanity again. Outside the windows, the Colossus waited in silence. A moon made of metal. A promise kept. A shepherd watching over its flock. The shuttle was small against the vastness of the Colossus. Counselor Prime, Vestan watched through the viewport as they approached the docking bay. The metal surface stretched in every direction like an endless plain. He had lived for 10,000 years. He had seen wonders beyond counting. But this made him feel very small. High Lord Gorith sat across from him, arms folded, jaw tight. Intelligence Director Melis perched on a special seat designed for her insectoid frame. None of them spoke. There was nothing to say. General Rosa Kimura met them at the airlock. She was short and solid, with gray hair and steady eyes. She looked like someone who had never panicked in her life. "Welcome to the Colossus," she said. "I will be your guide today. Please stay close. It is easy to get lost." They walked through corridors that could have held cathedrals. They passed windows that looked out on forests growing under artificial suns. They saw children playing in parks, workers tending machines, families sharing meals in common areas. 2.3 million people live here, Kimura explained. Many of them were born here. Many will die here. For them, this is not a ship. This is home. Vestan watched a group of children chasing each other across a grassy field. They seem happy. They are. Life on the Colossus is good. Safe. Comfortable. That was always the point. Gorith stopped at a window overlooking a manufacturing center. Robotic arms assembled components that he did not recognize. Sparks flew. Metals sang. You could build a fleet here, he said. We could build many things here. We choose not to. The Colossus creates what it needs to survive. Nothing more. I do not believe you. Kimura shrugged. Belief is not required. Only observation. They continued deeper into the Colossus. The corridors grew older, the metal more worn. They were approaching the heart of the fortress, the sections that had been built first 2 centuries ago. Dr. Amara Singh was waiting for them in a vast circular chamber. She was the ship's chief historian, keeper of human memory. Her office was surrounded by screens displaying images, documents, recordings. The entire history of humanity, preserved and protected. This is the archive, she said. Everything we are, everything we were, everything we might become, is all here. Melis studied the screens with her compound eyes. Why? Why preserve so much? Because memory is survival. A species that forgets its past is doomed to repeat its mistakes. We will not forget. Singh led them to a smaller room. A single screen glowed on the far wall. It showed an image of Earth, beautiful and blue, seen from space. 200 years ago, this happened. The image changed. A streak of light crossed the sky, then fire, then darkness, then waves that swallowed continents. The Pacific impact. An asteroid struck our planet. 1.2 billion people died in the first hour. Another billion died in the years that followed. Crops failed. Cities drowned. Nations collapsed. Vestan watched the images of destruction. He had seen such things before on other worlds to other species. It never became easier. We almost went extinct, Singh continued. A few million survivors scattered across a ruined world. But we did not die. We rebuilt. And we made a promise. What promise? Gorith asked. His voice was quieter now. That we would never be so vulnerable again. That we would never leave our fate to chance. That we would build something that could survive anything. She gestured at the walls around them. This is that promise. Project Arkansas, later renamed the Colossus. 200 years of construction. Every resource we could spare. Every mind we could gather. All focused on one goal. Survival, Melis said. Survival. Not conquest. Not glory. Not power. Just this simple right to exist. The tour continued to the Memorial Hall. Here the walls were covered with names. Millions of names. Billions of names. They stretched into the distance until they became a blur. Everyone who died in the Pacific impact, Kimura explained. Everyone who died in the famines and plagues and wars that followed. We carved their names here so we would never forget why we built this place. Gorith walked slowly along the wall. His claws brushed against the carved letters. So many names. So many dead. And these humans, these small, soft creatures he had laughed at, had turned that grief into something magnificent that he stopped at a random section. The names meant nothing to him. But he understood now. He understood what loss could do to a species. He understood what fear could build. I was wrong, he said quietly. It was the first time he had admitted such a thing in 300 years. Kimura stood beside him. We all make mistakes, High Lord. The important thing is what we do next. What do you want from us? Truly, we want what we have always wanted. A place at the table. A voice in the conversation. The right to exist without being mocked or threatened or dismissed. We are not asking for much. We are only asking to be treated as equals. Gorith looked at the names on the wall. Then he looked at the human woman beside him. Small, fragile, mortal, and yet she stood in the heart of a fortress that could destroy his entire empire. Perhaps, he said slowly, we can learn from each other. It was not an apology. It was not forgiveness. But it was a beginning. The first warning came from a mining colony at the edge of Drathian space. Lieutenant Sarah Okonkwo was monitoring communications aboard the Colossus when the signal arrived. It was broken and desperate, a voice screaming in a language she did not understand. Then silence. General, we have lost contact with the Kelith system. Kimura looked up from her reports. Cause. Unknown. The signal cut off mid-transmission. I am attempting to reach other stations in that sector. One by one, the stations went dark. 12 worlds in 6 hours. No distress calls. No explanations. Just silence spreading across the map like a stain. Intelligence Director Melis received the reports aboard her ship. Her compound eyes processed the data faster than any human could. The pattern was familiar. Terribly familiar. No, she whispered. It cannot be. They were dormant. She rushed to the council chamber where the diplomatic discussions were still continuing. She did not wait for permission to speak. The hollow have awakened. The room went cold. Every species present knew that name. It was carved into their genetic memory, a terror passed down through generations. The hollow were death itself. Counselor Prime Thessan rose from his seat. His ancient face showed something that might have been fear. Are you certain? The pattern matches exactly. Rapid expansion. Complete silence from affected systems. No survivors. No warnings. The hollow are moving toward the core of Confederation space. Diana Reyes looked at the tactical display that Melis projected. A wave of darkness spreading across the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds in its path. War the hollow? She asked. Thessan answered. His voice was heavy with memory. They're the oldest enemy. biomechanical parasites that existed before most of our species learned to make fire. They do not conquer. They do not negotiate. They consume. Every 3,000 years, they emerge from their hibernation and feed until there is nothing left. Then they sleep again. How were they stopped before? They were not stopped. Previous emergences ended only when the Hollow ran out of prey. Entire civilizations vanished. The survivors rebuilt from nothing. High Lord Gorith burst into the chamber. His scales had turned pale. His movements were frantic. "My homeworld," he said. "Drathis Prime is directly in their path. My people, my children." He looked at Diana. There was no pride in his eyes now. No arrogance. Only terror. "Please, help us." Diana did not hesitate. "General Kimura, prepare the Colossus for immediate departure. Admiral Howard, coordinate evacuation efforts with the Drathian fleet. We move in 1 hour." Gorith stared at her. "You would help us? After everything? That is what shepherds do, High Lord. We protect the flock. All of it." The Colossus began to move. 3,400 kilometers of metal and hope, turning toward the darkness. Around it, Admiral Howard's small fleet took up escort positions. The Drathi Armada fell in behind them. Kimura stood at the command center, watching the tactical displays update in real time. The Hollow were moving fast. Billions of individual units, each one a predator, evolved over millions of years. They did not use ships. They were the ships, living weapons that could survive in the void of space. "Time to intercept?" she asked. 18 hours to Drathis Prime. The Hollow will arrive in 21. Then we have 3 hours to prepare. Begin charging all defensive systems. Wake up everything we have. Deep within the Colossus, systems that had never been tested outside simulations came online. Energy shields designed to withstand solar flares. Point defense arrays that could track 10 million targets simultaneously. Gravitational manipulators that could bend space itself. Dimitri Nwosu watched the power readings climb. "Rosa, we have never used these systems at full capacity. We do not know what will happen." Then we learned today. Diana joined Kimura at the command center. Below them, through reinforced windows, they could see the residential districts. Families going about their lives. Children unaware of what was coming. "We should evacuate the civilians," Diana said. "There is nowhere to send them. The Hollow are everywhere between here and safe space. Our only option is to stand and fight. Can we win?" Kimura was silent for a moment. "We can survive. We were built to survive anything, whether that means winning." She shrugged. "We will find out." Sarah Okonkwo's voice came over the intercom. "General, I am receiving a signal from the Hollow Swarm. They communicate. It appears so. Putting it through." The sound that filled the command center was not a voice. It was hunger. Pure, endless hunger translated into sound. It scraped against the mind like broken glass. Kimura cut the transmission. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was tight. "They know we are coming." Diana looked at the tactical display. A wave of darkness. A wall of death. And standing in its path, one fortress and a handful of ships. "Good," she said. "Let them come." The sky above Drathis Prime turned black with teeth. The Hollow came in waves. Billions of creatures, each one a nightmare of metal and flesh. They moved like a storm, like a disease, like the end of everything. They had devoured civilizations before. They expected to devour this one too. They did not expect the Colossus. General Kimura stood at the center of the command hub. Around her, hundreds of operators worked their stations with desperate focus. Every screen showed the same thing. Death coming closer. All defensive systems active, Dimitri reported. Shields at maximum. Point defense targeting solutions locked. The Drathian fleet is in position behind us, Admiral Howard added from the Pioneer. They are ready to intercept anything that gets through. "Nothing gets through," Kimura said. "That is our job today." The first wave hit. The Colossus lit up like a star. Energy beams carved through the darkness, each one destroying thousands of Hollow units. Point defense turrets fired so fast they became solid lines of light. The shields absorbed impacts that would have shattered moons, but the Hollow kept coming. They threw themselves at the fortress without fear or hesitation. They did not feel pain. They did not understand retreat. They only knew hunger, and hunger never stopped. Diana Reyes watched from an observation deck. She had refused to evacuate to a safe zone. If her people were going to die, she would die with them. "How long can we hold?" she asked. Kimura's voice came through the intercom. "As long as we need to." High Lord Gorith commanded his fleet from the bridge of his flagship. His ships fired continuously, picking off hollow units that slipped past the Colossus's defenses. His crews fought with desperate fury. This was their home. These were their people. "Target that cluster at bearing 7, he ordered. "Do not let them reach the atmosphere." His weapons officer hesitated. "High Lord, we are running low on ammunition." "Then we will use our ships as battering rams if we must." Nothing reaches Drathis Prime. Nothing. The battle lasted 9 hours. In the third hour, a swarm of hollow broke through the shields and latched onto the Colossus's outer hull. They began to burrow, cutting through metal with acid and claws. Kimura sent response teams. Humans in armored suits, fighting hand to hand against creatures from nightmares. They died by the hundreds, but they held every corridor, every junction, every inch that in the 6th hour, a section of the agricultural dome was breached. The artificial atmosphere screamed out into space. Families ran for emergency shelters while volunteers sealed the breach with their own bodies. In the 8th hour, the power systems began to fail. Dmitri worked without rest, rerouting energy, bypassing damaged conduits, keeping the shields alive through sheer will. And in the 9th hour, the last hollow unit died. It was a small thing, barely the size of a human. It had been trying to reach the command center. A young soldier named Wei shot it 3 times, then collapsed against the wall and began to cry. The Colossus was wounded. Entire sections were open to space. The hull was scarred with thousands of impact marks. 12% of the structure was damaged beyond repair. 847 humans were dead, but Drathis Prime was safe. The Confederation was safe. The hollow were gone. Diana walked through the corridors after the battle. She saw the wounded being carried to medical bays. She saw repair crews already beginning their work. She saw exhausted soldiers holding each other and weeping. She found Kimura in the command center, still standing, still steady. The general looked like she had aged 20 years in 9 hours. "We did it," Diana said. "Yes, we did." The Confederation Council convened 3 days later. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives. They had all seen the footage. They had all watched the Colossus stand against the darkness. Counselor Prime Vestan spoke first. "The Confederation owes humanity a debt that cannot be repaid. You saved us all. We would be honored if you would take a seat at the highest level of our leadership." Diana considered the offer. Then she shook her head. "We will lead, but we will not rule. The Colossus will be repositioned to neutral space. It will serve as a protector for all species, not just humans. We did not build it for power. We built it for survival. The galaxy's survival, not just our own." After the ceremony, High Lord Gorith approached Diana privately. His scales had regained their color. His pride had not fully returned. Perhaps it never would. "I must ask," he said, "why did you save us? After everything we said, after how we treated you. Why?" Diana looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Because that is what shepherds do. We do not protect the flock because they deserve it. We protect them because they need it." Gorith bowed his head. It was the first time he had ever bowed to anyone. 6 months later, the Colossus took its position at the heart of Confederation space. Its wounds were healed. Its population had grown. It hung in the darkness like a promise, a guardian watching over 1,000 worlds. On Drathis Prime, a young girl pointed at the night sky. A new star had appeared, brighter than the others. "What is that?" she asked her mother. The mother smiled. She had been on the surface during the battle. She had watched the Colossus stand against the end of the world. "That is the human world," she said. "They keep us safe." The girl watched the star for a long time. Then she waved at it, a small gesture of thanks that no one would ever see. But somewhere aboard the Colossus, General Rosa Kimura stood at a window and looked out at the galaxy she had sworn to protect. And somehow, against all odds, she smiled back.